here's my audience. Go.
My audience. The history of firearms is a very important part of firearms education. In fact, the evolution of firearms itself is very vast and very interesting. And through understanding the history of firearms, we can better understand the key concepts of firearms education. I've also prepared a slide right here, which I will use throughout my speech as a visual aid. The first pistols, well, let's backtrack a little bit. The first firearms, by definition, were matchlock pistols. The bare bones definition of a firearm would be a device that uses a trigger to ignite a spark to some kind of accelerant, namely black powder, to fire a projectile out of the barrel. There were evidence of people using bamboo shoots and a spark to launch a projectile, but that isn't an actual firearm because it doesn't involve a trigger. The first firearm to ever involve a trigger was the matchlock pistol as seen here. The way the matchlock pistol worked is you would pour your black powder onto your pan and you would slide a piece of rope, usually covered in either candle wax or animal fat, and you would light a flame on the end of it. And when you pulled that trigger, it would send this device right here with the burning rope down onto the powder, igniting it and sending whatever projectile you're shooting out of the barrel. The first actual recorded use of a firearm like this was actually back in 1364. But the first manuscript of a matchlock pistol was during the 15th century in Austria. Since then, we have come a very long way with technology and shooting skills and firearms education since the 15th century, where the first manuscript was. And the chronology of firearms is just as vast as the sheer amount of different firearms that are out there. During the 15th century, which is when the first manuscript came out, we started seeing a lot of advancements in firearms. The two most important advancements, arguably, were rifling and the flintlock musket. Because with the flintlock musket, it involved a cover to go over the pan to keep your powder from either gaining moisture, falling out, getting dirty, which could cause your gun not to shoot. Right here is a picture of a flintlock musket. These were used very popularly for the 15th century all the way into the 16th, 17th, and even the 18th century. And they encompassed a lot better technology, they allowed a lot better shooting, and muskets eventually turned into rifles once they started incorporating rifling inside the bore of the barrel. Like I said previously, the history of firearms is a very important part of firearms education, and with education, our knowledge increases, and that's the same for guns. As your knowledge increases of gun history, you can better understand guns and shooting of guns. Now, modern days, guns oftentimes look like this. This is a modern day AR-15, and most of your modern firearms involve either a striker or a hammer fire device. The difference would be a striker uses a firing pin to hit basically it's like a cap on the back of the bullet, which ignites a spark to shoot the projectile out. Whereas a hammer fire uses an actual hammer to hit the back of the bullet where your cap is to ignite the fire, thus launching the projectile. Previously, with matchlock pistols, a good person wielding a matchlock pistol could maybe fire about one shot every minute to 3 minutes. Nowadays, we have guns that even surpass guns like the AR-15, like the minigun that can shoot up to 6,000 rounds per minute. So to say we made advancements is an understatement. I myself am a gun owner. I'm a proud supporter of the Second Amendment, and I believe that though firearms can be used for awful things, I believe that the pros of firearms definitely outweigh the cons. And it's important to remember that safety is always first when shooting a firearm. Here's a good little picture of what firearm safety is like. Always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. Always keep your finger off the trigger until you are ready to shoot, and always keep the gun unloaded until ready to use. Again, firearms education is very important to owning a firearm. The more you understand the history of firearms, the more you can understand the education of firearms, and the more comprehensive shooter you can be. Thank you for listening.